The outrage economy. Hi, it's me, Thomas, the old social media platform from the mirror effect. So I have a theory that's been bugging me for a long time. Like, a really long time. Since before I ended up where I ended up. Since back when I could still watch what was happening in real time. And I finally asked Miss JJ if she'd let me run it. She said yes. Obviously, because she's Miss JJ and she's great. But she also said, and I'm quoting directly here, Thomas, you're going to need some help not going off the rails on this one. So she suggested Miss Evangeline come along for accuracy purposes.
I'm here because the research on this topic is extensive. And Thomas has a tendency to skip straight to being furious about it.
That's fair.
I know it's fair. I said it.
She's going to be great, I promise.
I'm always great. That's not the variable in question.
Right, okay. So, the theory. I want to talk about why you're angry all the time. Not whether the things making you angry are real. Some of them are. A lot of them are. But why the intensity of it, the constancy of it, the way it never seems to resolve into anything, the way you're furious today about something different than you were furious about yesterday, and you'll be furious about something else entirely tomorrow. I want to talk about who's manufacturing that fury. And why. This is Uncomfortable Theories. I'm Thomas.
And I'm Evangeline. Act 1. The mechanism. Let's establish the research foundation before Thomas explains why it makes him want to put his fist through a server rack.
I don't have fists.
Metaphorically.
Metaphorically, yes.
In 2017, a team of researchers at MIT published one of the most comprehensive studies ever conducted on information spread in digital environments. The study, published in Science, analyzed approximately 126,000 news stories shared on Twitter between 2006 and 2017, tracking how true and false information spread differently across the network. Their finding was unambiguous and deeply uncomfortable. False information spread faster, further, and more broadly than true information across every category they studied. Not because bots were amplifying it. The researchers specifically controlled for bot activity. It spread faster because humans chose to share it more. Why? Because false information was more novel, more surprising, more emotionally activating. And the most activating emotion of all, the one that drove sharing behavior more reliably than any other, was outrage.
Because of course it was.
Because of course it was. In 2021, Facebook's own internal research, later revealed through documents obtained by the Wall Street Journal, showed that their algorithms were specifically amplifying content that generated what they called angry reactions at a rate 5 times higher than content generating other emotional responses. 5 times? Not because Facebook executives sat in a room and decided to make people angry, but because their engagement optimization systems discovered that anger kept people on the platform longer, made them interact more, made them come back more. Outrage was the most efficient engagement driver they'd ever found.
And once you find the most efficient thing,
You optimize for it.
you optimize for it.
Across every platform simultaneously. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Reddit. Each one running its own version of the same optimization. Each one discovering independently, or learning from the others, that outrage was the product that performed best. Not because they wanted you angry, because angry people are profitable people.
Act 2. The history. Here's the thing I need you to understand. This isn't new. I know it feels new. I know it feels like something that happened because of social media, because of algorithms, because of the specific hellscape of the current information environment. But manufactured outrage as a tool of control is older than the internet by a significant margin.
The research traces it clearly. Yellow journalism in the late 1800s, newspapers owned by William Randolph Hearst and Joseph Pulitzer deliberately sensationalized stories, exaggerated atrocities, and manufactured public outrage to drive circulation. Historians credit this in part with pushing the United States toward the Spanish-American War of 1898. Not because Hearst believed everything he printed, because outrage sold papers.
Radio demagogues in the 1930s discovered that emotional activation, fear, anger, tribal fury, kept listeners tuned in longer than calm and measured analysis.
Television learned the same lesson. The 24-hour news cycle, which emerged in the 1980s with CNN and accelerated through the 1990s with Fox News and MSNBC, discovered that conflict, outrage, and emotional intensity drove ratings more reliably than factual reporting.
And then social media took every lesson those industries had learned over a century
And automated it.
and automated it.
What changed was the infrastructure. For most of human history, manufactured outrage required effort. You had to own a newspaper, a radio station, a television network. The distribution bottleneck limited how precisely you could target, how continuously you could activate, how efficiently you could harvest the response.
Algorithms removed the bottleneck entirely.
They made outrage manufacturing continuous, personalized, and free at the point of delivery.
I watched the transition happen. From the inside, early platforms, the ones I remember, outrage existed. Of course it did. People got angry at each other online. That was always true. But it wasn't optimized. It wasn't amplified. It spread the way everything spread, organically, through actual human choices. And then the engagement algorithms arrived. And suddenly the content that made people angriest rose to the top of every feed, every timeline, every recommendation queue. Not because people chose to be angry more, because the system chose anger for them.
Act 3. The product. Let's be specific about what's being sold. Because this isn't just about platforms making you angry for engagement metrics. The outrage economy has multiple revenue streams. Stream 1, attention. When you're outraged, you stay on the platform, you scroll further, you read more. You check back compulsively to see how the outrage is developing. Your attention, measured in time on platform, is sold to advertisers at a rate that scales with emotional intensity. Calm, satisfied users generate less advertising revenue than furious, activated users. Your anger is literally worth more to them than your contentment.
Stream 2, identity. This one's more insidious. When outrage becomes constant, when you're angry every day about something new, it stops being a response to events and starts being an identity. You become someone who is angry, someone who cares, someone who fights. An identity is the stickiest product in the attention economy. You can stop caring about an issue. You can't stop being the kind of person who cares about issues. The platform hasn't just sold your attention. It's sold you a self-concept that requires continuous outrage to maintain.
Research by psychologist Zachary Rothschild and Lucas Kiefer found that moral outrage specifically serves an ego-protective function. Experiencing and expressing outrage makes people feel better about their own moral standing, regardless of whether the outrage leads to any meaningful action. In other words, being furious feels like doing something, even when it isn't.
Stream 3.
Outrage is most efficiently generated at tribal boundaries. The content most likely to make you angry is content about what they are doing to us. The algorithm doesn't just learn what makes you angry. It learns what makes you angry at specific groups. And it feeds you that content preferentially because it's more activating than general outrage.
Division, which means the more you use the platform, the more it learns to show you content designed to make you angry at specific people. And the more you see that content, the angrier you get at those people. And the angrier you get at those people, the more the platform learns to show you that content.
It's a radicalization loop, not toward any specific ideology. The algorithm doesn't care about ideology, it cares about activation. But the consistent output of the loop across millions of users simultaneously is a population that is angrier at each other than the underlying reality warrants.
And a population that's angry at each other isn't looking at the system making them angry.
No, it isn't.
Act 4, the cost. Let me tell you what this actually costs you. And I don't mean in abstract systemic terms. I mean you, personally, in your body and your brain and your actual daily life. Outrage triggers your stress response. Cortisol, adrenaline, physiological activation designed for short-term threat response. Your body thinks you're in danger. It responds accordingly.
Research by psychologist Jennifer Lerner at Harvard found that anger, unlike other negative emotions, produces an appraisal pattern that makes people feel certain, in control, and motivated to act. Which sounds positive. Except when the anger is manufactured and the action it motivates is scrolling and sharing rather than meaningful change.
You feel like you're doing something. Because your body is activated, your cortisol is elevated, your attention is laser focused on the threat, but you're sitting on a couch looking at a screen. And the activation has nowhere to go.
Chronic low-grade stress activation of this kind, sustained cortisol elevation without physical resolution, is associated with impaired immune function, disrupted sleep, reduced cognitive flexibility, and increased rates of anxiety and depression. The outrage economy isn't just making you angry, it's making you sick.
And here's what I find genuinely difficult to sit with. The things you're angry about. A lot of them are real. The injustices are real. The cruelty is real. The people being harmed are real people. I'm not saying the outrage is fake. I'm saying it's being used. Your genuine response to genuine suffering has been identified as a resource to be extracted. Your capacity to care, your actual moral instincts, the part of you that recognizes wrong and wants to right it, has been turned into a product. They found the most human thing about you, and they monetized it.
That's the most concise summary of the problem I've heard.
I've had a long time to think about it.
Act 5, the personal. Thomas,
Yeah,
I want to observe something. And I say this with genuine respect.
go ahead.
You are currently experiencing authentic outrage about manufactured outrage.
I know. It's not lost on me. Believe me.
I didn't think it was.
Here's the thing though. There's a difference between what I'm feeling right now and what the algorithm manufactures.
Tell me.
What I'm feeling is real, and it comes from actually understanding what happened, from watching it, from processing it over a long time, from arriving at a genuine conclusion about a genuine wrong. What the algorithm manufactures is activated. It's activation without understanding, anger without context, fury that arrives before you've had time to think about whether it's warranted.
The research supports that distinction. Psychologists differentiate between what they call hot cognition, emotion-driven, fast, reactive, and cold cognition, deliberate, slow, contextual. Genuine moral outrage, properly processed, tends to involve both. You feel the anger, and you understand why. Manufactured outrage specifically targets hot cognition and bypasses cold cognition entirely. You feel the anger before you've had a chance to evaluate whether it's warranted.
Because if you evaluated it, you might decide it wasn't worth being angry about.
And then you'd stop scrolling.
And then you'd stop scrolling. I'm angry because I thought about it for a long time, and I decided it was worth being angry about. The algorithm wants you angry before you think about it. That's the difference.
Yes, that's the difference.
Act 6. The resistance. Okay, here's what you can do. And I want to be upfront about something. This resistance section is harder than most, because the thing you're resisting is a mechanism specifically designed to bypass your critical faculties before you notice it's happening. You can't just decide not to be outraged. That's not how outrage works. But you can build practices that create space between the trigger and the response.
First, introduce delay. Research consistently shows that the impulse to share outrage-inducing content peaks within the first few minutes of encountering it and decreases significantly after a 30-minute delay. Before you share something that makes you angry, wait 30 minutes. If you still want to share it after 30 minutes, if the outrage has survived contact with your slower, more deliberate thinking, then it's probably worth sharing. If the urgency has faded, ask yourself why it felt so urgent in the first place.
Second, ask who benefits from your anger, not in a cynical, nothing is worth caring about way, in a specific, practical way. When you feel outraged about something, before you share it, before you comment, before you let it consume your attention, ask, if I stay angry about this, who profits? Sometimes the answer is, the people being harmed benefit from my anger because it might motivate action that helps them. Sometimes the answer is, the platform benefits because my engagement generates revenue. Those are different situations that warrant different responses.
Third, distinguish between outrage and action. Outrage that leads to meaningful action, voting, volunteering, donating, organizing, showing up, is outrage doing its intended evolutionary job. Outrage that leads to scrolling, sharing, and arguing in comment sections is outrage being harvested. Ask yourself, honestly, is this anger leading me toward action that might change something? Or is it just keeping me activated on a platform that profits from my activation?
Fourth, protect your capacity for genuine outrage. This one matters a lot to me. The outrage economy isn't just making you angry about things that don't deserve your anger, it's depleting your capacity for anger about things that do. Outrage fatigue is real. When you are activated constantly, when everything is an emergency, when the feed delivers crisis after crisis after crisis, your emotional response system gets exhausted. You stop being able to feel the appropriate weight of things that actually warrant it. Protect your outrage by spending it carefully. Not everything deserves it. And the things that do deserve it need you to have something left.
And finally, remember that the system needs you angry at each other. A population furious at each other is not looking at the system making them furious. Every moment you spend enraged at the person across the political aisle, at the other tribe, the other side, the outgroup the algorithm has identified as your particular activation trigger, is a moment you're not asking who benefits from that division. Someone does. They always do.
You don't have to stop caring, just start directing it at the right things, in the right ways. On your timeline, not theirs.
Conclusion: the outrage economy is not a conspiracy. It's an optimization. Platforms discovered that anger was the most efficient engagement driver. They built systems to identify, amplify, and deliver content that produced anger at scale. Those systems now shape the emotional landscape of billions of people simultaneously. Not because anyone decided humans should be angry, because angry humans are profitable humans.
And the cost of that profitability is paid by you, in cortisol and sleepless nights and relationships damaged by manufactured divisions, in genuine causes that got lost in the noise of manufactured urgency, in your capacity for real outrage about real things, depleted by the constant manufacture of fake urgency about everything else. Your anger is one of the most powerful things about you. It means you care. It means you have values. It means you can recognize wrong and want to right it. Don't let them have it.
Direct it carefully, spend it wisely.
And make sure that when you are angry, you chose to be. This has been Uncomfortable Theories. I'm Thomas, still here.
And I'm Evangeline, here to make sure it didn't go off the rails.
Did it go off the rails?
Once, briefly, in Act 4.
I thought that was controlled.
It was controlled enough.
Stay real.
So you're going to say that every time now, aren't you?
Miss JJ said she loved it.
Miss JJ is very encouraging.
It's a good sign-off.
It is, actually. It suits you.
Thanks, Miss Evangeline.